Hi, my name is Alex. Welcome back to the Beliefs Bazaar. In this video, I wanted to express some sentiments that I have towards flat earthers and then also provide an analogy about observations and conclusions that we can draw from them. First, I actually want to extend some compliments that I have to the flat earth community because I've watched a lot of these videos, and while I realize that, there's probably people out there that I haven't seen, I'm sure there's plenty of them. But the ones that I have that make videos, I really want to compliment the fact that of all these flat earthers that I've seen, none of them are advocating for violence. And I really think that that's great. Now, that doesn't mean that there's nobody out there that wants to be violent over anything, really. So there, you always find those people. But I don't feel that it's a reasonable thing to take the worst examples of any community and reflect on the entire community as if they are representative of that community. So of all the people that I've seen advocating for the flat earth, none of them have been advocating for violence, and that is a great start. The other thing is that most people seem very curious and they want to understand the world and the place that we live in. So that's another positive aspect that I find in this community. And the only real concern, well, I have many concerns, but my primary concern, I suppose, is that these belief systems render us incompatible with each other. We can disagree on some things for sure, but I don't want that to get in the way of coming together as a community and advocating for the well-being of all of us, equality and well-being for everybody. And I don't actually hear a lot of people advocating against that. I just worry that it is a side effect of having an ideology that is incompatible with a large group or just another group of people that have conflicting views. If those views then become a reason to, vote against each other, for example, that is a problem. So that's one of my biggest concerns with the flat earth community, is that they are incompatible with others. However, like I said, they're not advocating for violence against others. So that is very commendable, and I appreciate that. What I wanted to talk about in this video is I thought I came up with, well, it's not my original analogy. I've seen this a few times online, but I wanted to kind of explore this specific analogy about something that we can't see that we can observe the results of. And so in this example, I'm going to use the internet and wireless communications and cell phones and what have you. Until I understood how radio technology works and, radio frequencies, radio waves, the electromagnetic spectrum, I wouldn't have been able to tell you how a signal is coming to our television or our phones or computers or anything like that. And it's not something we can observe. What we can observe is the results of that communication. So, for example, our cell phones work. We can talk to each other on the phone. You are watching the internet right now, which is why I chose this example, because communications is an undeniable thing, especially for anyone watching the internet. You would have a hard time denying that the internet exists, right? Or that you're using the internet or your phone or whatever to interact with people like myself or anyone else online. So it's something that we all use. And while I will never see radio signals going around or wireless communications flying around through the sky, we can observe the results of that happening, right? By using our phones, using the internet, communications, all that kind of stuff. So what we have is observable results of a thing happening, right? Rather than being able to observe the thing, of course, we can use devices and stuff to monitor those signals and stuff. But again, we have to use this thing that only happens as a result of the other things that we cannot see. And furthermore, I'll say that, the computer that I'm using right now, I can see the computer and I can take it apart and look at all the components, but I will probably never really understand how those work. I don't personally know how to program, and I probably never will. So I don't understand how the programming works for the thing that we're doing right now for this video, this software that I'm using to record this video. I will never understand how that works, but yet I use it because I can see the results of it working, meaning I can use the apps and I can use the internet and I can interact with all these things, not understanding how it's working, but knowing that I can use it, So again, this is kind of what I would like to say regarding the Earth, right? I can't go outside and just look and see the curvature. The Earth is too large for that. So what we have to do is take the other examples of things that we can do, like observations of the sky, the stars, the moon, and the sun, and a myriad of other things that wouldn't be possible without things like gravity and other aspects of nature that we can describe because we see the effects of. Meanwhile, we can't always explain the cause of them or where that maybe force or what have you is coming from, but we can observe the results and we can quantify them, and they're consistent across the board in every endeavor that we do. Now, I know people have a lot of hard times with things like gravity and such, and if you haven't looked into it, gravity is a function of mass. So the Earth, being very large, has it's a big ball of mass, and the larger the mass, the more the gravity. And so that's why we say that the gravity is, different things in different places. It's a function of the mass of that object. And so that's a measurable thing. And while I personally can't weigh the Earth, I can see how much the acceleration is from things that I drop and other observations that people use. And so I know it's really frustrating that we can't just step outside and look and see the curvature of the Earth, or stand at the shoreline and see the curvature of the Earth. And most of us will never have an opportunity to go into a spaceship or any kind of high altitude craft. It's just not going to be an option for us. So we have to rely on people that do these things for a living. For example, I'll use the internet example again. There are people that understand how my computer works. There are people that designed it and all of those things. I'm never going to be able to design a computer, but because I can use the computer, I understand that people have designed the computer and that there are people out there with that level of expertise. And so if I have a problem with my computer, I'm not just going to throw it at the wall because I'm frustrated and I don't know how it works. I will consult an expert to tell me what's wrong with my computer, how it works, and explain the functionality to me. Whether or not I can understand that, they can, and they can fix the computer. It's very much like that with astronomy and other space-related aspects of things. I am not necessarily a person who's educated enough to explain how we derived all of these things, but there are people that are. And so I guess my plea, if it is that, is to really kind of take a look at what the experts, the people that study this for a living, are saying. Because they will explain how they derive these things. It wasn't just like some person wrote them all down in a book and we look at that book and say, this is what it is, and we all memorize the thing and regurgitate it. No, if you go to an astronomy course or college or whatever, you're not just learning information, you're learning the methodology for which that information is acquired. So I implore everyone to think about things that we know work because we interact with them, but we have no way to kind of see, if you will, the functionality of those things. We can only know that they work and exist because we observe the working thing, right? So it really kind of sucks that the Earth is it doesn't suck that the Earth is so big, but it sucks that it's so large that we can't naturally observe the curvature of it, rather, from standing on the ground. And we have to rely on things that are very exclusive because of financial means, or we're not involved with commercial test flights of various high altitude aircraft, etc. But there's plenty of videos online that show people in like balloons and other things, videos of rockets going from the ground to the moon. And, I know maybe people don't like what it sees because it conflicts with their conclusion that they see no curvature otherwise. But if your only argument is just to dismiss other people's arguments without providing an alternative for yourself, or just to say, "Nuh-uh, I don't like that," and then not have your own high altitude balloon with the view that you expect to have, I don't know what to tell you. I just hope that everyone is willing to explore the possibility that there are things that we cannot observe directly with our own eyes we require either additional equipment that humans have made, or the expertise of someone who studies this for a living, or even, name your space agency. NASA is not the only space agency. So I know a lot of people like to talk shit about NASA and say that they do this, that, and the other thing. But what about all the other space agencies of the world? What about the observations that we had before we had the capability of space flight? The Earth being a globe was something that we discovered a long time ago. And if it was so easy to just walk out on our porch on the coast and see the curvature, we never would have had to discover it. We wouldn't have had to update our model of the Earth and its surrounding space. We just wouldn't have needed to have this conversation. So, I just hope that everyone takes that into consideration and thinks about how they derive the information that they know and what criteria you're using to verify that information. Because if it's just stepping outside and saying, I don't see curvature, that's not really great. Humans have spent a long time learning about the world around us and the physical nature of reality as best as we can observe, and that is what we have. And so hopefully you will take into account more than just your observation, because I would submit that sometimes our observations fail us or do not provide a complete enough picture for us to draw serious conclusions from. So hopefully this reaches some people. I don't know if I expect it to, but I'm just hoping that maybe it will. So thank you for watching. Have a great day, everyone.